Okay, let's unpack this. We usually think of founding fathers, whether it's of a country or, just a city, as these stoic marble figures.
Right. Statues in the park.
Exactly. People who had some grand plan, executed it perfectly, and then, I don't know, everyone clapped.
The great man theory of history. It's neat, it's tidy, and it fits on a plaque.
It does. But I've been reading through this chapter 6 of the Stories of St. Andrews, focused on a guy named George Mortimer West. And tidy is the absolute last word I would use.
Oh, not at all.
This reads less like a civics lesson and more like a Greek tragedy.
It really does. I mean, it's a story about ambition, sure, but it's mostly about unintended consequences. It's about how you can build a machine that works so well, it eventually just runs you over.
We're really looking at the two Georges here. On one hand, you have the visionary who put the Florida Panhandle on the map, the guy who literally built Panama City.
The connector.
But on the other hand, you have this tragic figure who watched the city he built effectively eat the town he actually loved.
And that is the central tension. You have a man who engineered the rise of Newtown. That's Panama City. But his heart, his home, was in Old Town, St. Andrews.
And the machine he built became powerful enough to erase St. Andrews' independence. It is, like you said, the classic founder's dilemma.
It is.
So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out how that happened. How does one guy's specific skill set and some, frankly, ruthless decisions completely shift the destiny of a region?
And you have to talk about his wife.
Oh, we have to talk about his wife, Lillian, who seems to be the reason the soul of the old town survived at all.
She is a crucial part of the puzzle. But to understand the tragedy and to really understand why the Panhandle looks the way it does today, you have to understand the machine George built first.
And to understand the machine, we have to look at the mechanic, because George West didn't just, wash up on the shores of Florida as a novice.
Not at all.
The sources call his background the Wisconsin Crucible. What does that even mean in this context?
Well, think about where he came from. He was born in New York in 1845, but his career was forged in the Midwest during the absolute peak of rapid industrialization.
Right.
If you look at his resume, like before he ever even sees a palm tree, it reads like a training manual for building a civilization from scratch.
I was looking at the timeline in the notes. It's kind of wild. He learns telegraphy at age 15. This is in the 1860s.
Which is so significant. I mean, in the 1860s, telegraphy is the high-speed internet. It's the cutting edge of communication.
So he's the tech guy.
He's the IT guy of the 19th century. If you knew telegraphy, you controlled information.
Then by 21, he's running a newspaper, the Brandon Times, in Wisconsin. Then he becomes a lawyer in 1871, and then he's working for major railroads.
Yeah, the Milwaukee and Horicon, the Chicago and Northwestern. So pause and look at that toolkit. He isn't just a businessman.
No.
He has the technical skill telegraphy, he has the voice media, he has the rules law, and he has the logistics railroads.
It's a full stack.
Exactly. He understood the operating system of the late 19th century. He knew that railroads controlled the flow of everything: people, commerce, money. If you controlled the rail, you controlled the future.
And he brought that very specific, very aggressive toolkit to the sleepy coast of Florida.
He wasn't guessing. He had a blueprint.
But why Florida? I mean, if he was so plugged in up north, why leave? The diary suggests this wasn't just a business move.
No, it wasn't. And this is where the human element comes in. His diaries reveal a lot of profound pain. He lost his siblings to diphtheria. Then he lost his first son to the same disease.
Ugh, diphtheria was just a terrifying killer back then. It wiped out whole families.
It was devastating. So when he came to Florida, it wasn't just an investment strategy. It was a search for a new beginning, a place to heal.
And the sources say he first came to St. Andrews as a tourist.
He's a vacationer.
He bought a home there because he liked the sunsets.
Right. And that establishes the emotional stakes for everything that follows. He didn't view St. Andrews as like a line item on a spreadsheet. It was his sanctuary.
It was where he recovered from his grief.
But, and here's the contradiction, he couldn't turn off his builder's brain.
He looked at paradise and thought, how can I pave this?
Well, maybe not pave immediately, but optimize. He looked at this sleepy, beautiful place and asked, what could this become? And that question leads us to the vision.
The formula.
Because West had a formula. It was an equation that had worked all over America. Land plus rail plus promotion equals a town with a future.
But St. Andrews had a problem with that equation.
It did. St. Andrews had deep water, it had Ware's Wharf, it had a history of maritime trade. But it was isolated. It lacked leverage.
Yeah.
And West knew that in the 20th century, a port without a railroad was a dead end. You couldn't just rely on schooners and sailboats anymore.
So he looks east to this dormant town site called Harrison.
Mm.
And this is where the story gets into what I'd call aggressive creativity, the rebranding.
It is one of the greatest marketing stunts in Florida history, maybe American history.
They didn't just change the name, they created a fiction, didn't they?
They created a narrative. West and his partners took a map and a ruler, and they drew a straight line from Chicago to the Panama Canal.
The Panama Canal, which at this time is what? The biggest news story on the planet.
It's the moon landing of the early 1900s. Everyone is obsessed with the idea of this shortcut between the oceans. And it just so happened, or so West claimed,
Right.
that his straight line from Chicago passed right through this random spot in Florida.
So they renamed Harrison to Panama City.
Exactly.
That is audacious.
It's genius. I mean, they were selling a destination before it really existed. They were telling investors in the North, we are your direct link to global trade. We are the gateway to the canal.
a promise that this scrubland was going to be an international hub.
Mm-hmm.
But a name is just a name, right? I can call my backyard Spaceport Alpha, but unless Musk shows up, it's just a lawn.
True. To make it real, they needed infrastructure. And this brings us to the deal with the devil.
They needed a train.
Right. So West formed the Gulf Coast Development Company, the GCDC, in 1905. His target was a railroad builder named A.B. Steele.
And Steele was building the Atlanta and St. Andrews Bay Railroad, the Bay Line.
But Steele wasn't a charity.
Far from it. He wasn't going to bring the tracks to the bay for free.
And the price the GCDC paid is just staggering. To get Steele to divert that line to their new town, they didn't just write a check. They gave A.B. Steele 25% of the company's stock.
A quarter of the entire company.
A quarter of everything, plus $50,000 worth of prime waterfront land.
That sounds desperate. Was that normal for the time?
It was high. I mean, $50,000 in the early 1900s is a fortune. They basically gave away a huge chunk of the farm just to get a road to the farm.
Wow.
But West understood the physics of the economy. St. Andrews had the water, but Panama City needed the steel.
And once that train arrived in 1908,
The center of gravity shifted immediately. It's simple economics. If you are a merchant, where do you set up shop? By the slow sailboat wharf or by the train station that connects to Atlanta and Chicago?
you go to the train. Every time.
Exactly. So the energy moved down the shoreline. The old maritime village of St. Andrews was suddenly competing with a brand new railroad hub.
And West didn't stop at the tracks. The GCDC started building a civilization to support it.
Yeah.
I have the list here of what they built. It's really impressive. They built the first brick building, which became the Bank of Panama City. They built the school. And this stood out to me. They paid the teachers' salaries themselves.
Because there was no tax base yet.
Yeah,
They were funding the public sector to jumpstart the private sector.
that's wild.
They built the waterworks. They donated land for churches, Baptist, Methodist, Catholic, Presbyterian.
It sounds like they were trying to manufacture a society overnight, like playing SimCity with unlimited funds.
They were engineering stability. Families don't move to a wild frontier town unless there's a school and a church. West knew that. He knew he had to reduce the risk for newcomers.
But they also engineered the politics. There's a note here about borrowed political power. What does that refer to?
Oh, this is a fascinating bit of maneuvering. At the time, this whole area was part of Washington County. But Panama City needed to be a county seat to have real power.
And for listeners who might not know, why does being the county seat matter so much?
The county seat is where the courthouse is. It's where the records are kept. It's where the legal and political decisions are made. It attracts lawyers, judges, government spending.
It anchors the town.
It anchors the town. If you aren't the county seat, you're just a satellite.
So how did they get it?
Well, the GCDC spent about $400, which sounds small, but was significant strategic money back then, to facilitate splitting Washington County and creating a new one, Bay County.
They bought a county for $400.
Effectively, yes. They facilitated the split to ensure Panama City would be the seat of power for this new jurisdiction. It was a masterclass in development. They didn't just build buildings, they built the political container for the city to grow into.
So George West creates this engine. The railroad is humming, the town is growing, the brand Panama City is working. But now we hit the dilemma. Because by the 1920s, the monster he built is getting hungry.
The new town is outgrowing the old town. The business elites in Panama City start looking at the map and saying, We need to consolidate.
They wanted to annex St. Andrews and the industrial town of Millville into Panama City. Why? Just for size.
It was about federal money, specifically dredging.
Dredging the harbor.
Right. To make the port capable of handling massive modern ships, you need deep channels. Dredging is incredibly expensive. You need the federal government to pay for it.
And Washington wasn't going to write a check to 3 little squabbling villages.
Exactly. They needed to see a unified front, a larger population, a single administration.
So it was a play for port status. They needed the numbers.
It was a pure business calculation.
And this is where the irony just punches you in the gut. George West, the father of Panama City, the guy who drew the line on the map, he fights against this.
Because he lived in St. Andrews. That was his home. He viewed this forced consolidation not as progress, but as a hostile takeover.
There's a famous editorial he wrote in his newspaper. He titled it, "Hail Caesar."
It's incredibly dramatic. Hail Caesar, those who were about to die salute you.
He was referencing the Roman gladiators.
He was. He referred to the annexation as the assassination of St. Andrews. He didn't mince words.
Wow.
He claimed St. Andrews had fallen solely to gratify personal spite. He saw it as the erasure of history. He believed St. Andrews had this unique identity, that salty, historic charm, and that becoming just a neighborhood of the city he created would destroy that.
He's effectively screaming stop at the train he set in motion 20 years earlier.
That's the perfect image. But the train was too heavy by then. The economic interests of Panama City, the very ones he fostered, were now stronger than the sentimental interests of St. Andrews.
It's tragic. And the source says West died in 1926, right as the consolidation became a reality.
He essentially died watching the machine he built consume the home he loved. He never got to see how permanent that change would be. He died thinking he had failed to protect St. Andrews.
But the story doesn't end with George. We have to talk about Miss Lillian.
Lillian West, George's third wife. They married in 1909.
And the sources describe her as a force.
Oh, she was. I mean, they were a modern power couple long before that term existed. She wasn't just supporting him from the sidelines.
Yeah.
She ran the publishing company. She wrote articles. She was out there selling GCDC lots.
She was closing deals.
Absolutely. And she was a fearless editor. She took on corruption. She advocated for civic improvements like the East Bay Canal.
And there's one detail about her that really stood out to me. She was the first woman to register to vote in St. Andrews.
After suffrage passed, yes. That tells you everything about her character. She was engaged, she was present, and she was not afraid to claim her space.
And after George died, she didn't just pack it in.
No, she carried the torch. She continued to run the newspapers, managing up to 16 employees at one point. She eventually sold the St. Andrews Bay News to what became the News Herald.
So she kept it going.
She did. But her real legacy, in the context of this two cities story, is that while George built the infrastructure of Panama City, Lillian fought to preserve the identity of St. Andrews.
She represented the resident view against the industrialist view.
Exactly. She understood that a town is more than just its GDP. It's the stories, the history, the feeling of the place. She kept the name and the news of St. Andrews alive, even after the map said it was just part of Panama City.
Which brings us to the twist ending of this whole saga. St. Andrews lost the battle in 1926. It got annexed. It lost its independence.
It lost the commercial dominance. Panama City became the port. Panama City got the heavy industry, the paper mill, the chemical storage.
But looking at it now, that loss was actually a win.
In the long run, yes. Think about it. Because the railroad tracks and the heavy industry went to Panama City, St. Andrews was spared. It didn't become an industrial zone.
So it kept its charm.
It retained that historic, walkable layout. It kept the salty charm that George West fell in love with in the first place.
So by losing the economic war, they won the lifestyle war.
Precisely. Today, St. Andrews is the place people go for the culture, the food, the history. It's the soul of the bay. If St. Andrews had won the railroad, it might look like just another industrial port today.
That is such a complex legacy. George West built the future to connect to the world, but in doing so, he unintentionally preserved the past by making it obsolete for industry.
He is the man who chose Old Town, but built New Town. And maybe, in a strange way, that was the only way to save Old Town. He sacrificed its independence to save its soul, even if he didn't realize it at the time.
It really makes you think about the places we live in now. Who decided where the lines are drawn? Who decided which neighborhood gets the highway and which one gets the park?
It's almost always a George West figure, someone with a ruler, a map, and a vision that you might not see until it's too late. These cities don't just happen. They are willed into existence by people with very specific toolkits.
And for you listening, here's a final thought to chew on. We talk about West's marketing stunt, drawing that fake line to the Panama Canal. It was a fabrication, a sales pitch. But today, Panama City is a real hub. At what point does a fake story become a real history just because enough people believe in it?
That is the question. Sometimes the map creates the territory.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the stories of St. Andrews. We'll see you next time.